What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, undefeated, unified, WBC, IBF, welterweight, world champion, superstar boxer, who is widely considered by many to be top 3 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, and Errol the Truth Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. 27 wins, no loss and no draw, 21 big wins by way of knockout. He is 31 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. With that said, Errol Spence is going to make his ring return April 16th, Arlington, Texas, AT&T Dallas Cowboys Stadium, against WBA, World Boxing Association's welterweight world champion, Cuban star boxer YORDENIS UGAS, who is 27 wins, 4 losses, no draws, 12 wins by way of knockout, 35 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 69-inch arm reach. With that said, YORDENIS UGAS, he holds the WBA title. Errol Spence, he's set out long to become undisputed at the welterweight division and be, and create history, okay? There's only 6 champions in the history of the sport of boxing to hold all 4 major sanction belts and the ring linealship, okay? So Errol Spence, he's setting his sights on that accomplishment. And so with that said, Errol Spence, though, has been out the ring for 2.5 years, okay? He's had 1 to 2 fights in 2.5 years. If you count his September 28th, 2019 unification showdown with 2-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Shawn Porter, in which Errol Spence, he unified the titles. That's when he picked up the WBC title. But just 12 days later, he suffered a horrific car accident, which saw Errol Spence out the ring for 14 months and left with the unknown. Everybody was wondering and questioning, is Errol Spence going to be the same? Is he going to walk the same? Is he going to talk the same, let alone participate in his respective profession in the sport of boxing? Okay, Errol Spence 14 months later came back. He fought 2-division world champion Puerto Rican superstar boxer Danny Swift Garcia December 5th of 2020. 14 months later, he dominated the fight against Danny Swift Garcia, but Errol Spence, after the fight, he let the world know that he was only 80% of himself, okay? Which most people, if you watch the fight, you just wouldn't understand or know what he's talking about, because Errol Spence, he looked very well in the fight, okay? He didn't look hesitant, he didn't look rusty, he looked like himself, okay? He looked like the guy that boxed 4-division world champion Mexican superstar boxer Mikey Garcia, okay, before the Shawn Porter fight. But Errol Spence, he stated he was only 80% of himself. And then Errol Spence, August 21st of 2021, he was supposed to go into a massive showdown with legendary 8-division world champion, iconic Filipino superstar boxer Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao. But Errol Spence, he suffered a broken detached retina, which saw him have to be pulled from the fight. And oddly enough, his opponent that's coming up April 16th in Dallas and Arlington, Texas, is YORDENIS UGAS, was elevated. He was the regular champion. He was elevated to the super champion after Manny Pacquiao defeated former unified welterweight world champion superstar boxer Keith One-Time Thurman, July of 2019. Manny Pacquiao was out the ring for 2 years. He was then placed as champion of recess. YORDENIS UGAS was elevated from regular WBA champion to super champion. And YORDENIS UGAS replaced Errol Spence, and he dominated Manny Pacquiao, okay, won a unanimous decision. So with that said, because of the long layoffs and because of because of the unknown, the injuries that Errol Spence had suffered, it left many people questioning. His peers, boxing pundits, the fans, they're wondering, they're questioning, is Errol Spence ever going to be the same? Is he going to return to the form of Errol Spence that we saw against one Chris Algieri, against one Lamont Peterson, and Kell Brook in his first title opportunity in the UK, okay? Is he going to return to that form, okay? There's many people questioning and wondering, is Errol Spence even going to have the ability to beat a guy like YORDENIS UGAS, okay? Many people think that YORDENIS UGAS suddenly has what it takes to beat Errol Spence: the timing, the athletic ability, the size, and the ring IQ and the boxing skills coming from that Cuban school of boxing, which is possibly the best school of boxing coming up in the rankings, okay? So with that said, many people questioning Errol Spence. So Errol Spence, he continues to let the world know he's going to remind them that he has definitely returned to form, and he has a chip on his shoulder. Now, we know Errol Spence, his nickname, The Truth, it's being reported that nickname came from when he had his glorified sparring sessions with legendary retired Hall of Fame iconic superstar boxer who's a 5-division world champion with a former pay-per-view king and a pound-for-pound king, Floyd Money Mayweather, in which we know that Errol Spence blackened Floyd Mayweather eye and gave Floyd Mayweather one of the toughest sparring sessions of his career. And so it was being said that afterwards, Floyd Mayweather Sr., Floyd Mayweather Jr., and people started saying that dude is the truth. That's where the nickname The Truth came from. Well, then Errol Spence, he lived by the motto strap season. He had a goal from the beginning. He stated that he wanted to create history. He wanted to become undisputed in the welterweight division. There's never been an undisputed welterweight champion to hold all 4 major sanctioned belts and the ring linealship, okay? So with that said, the last undisputed champion was Zab Judah, but he didn't hold all 4 belts, okay? So Errol Spence has been looking to collect these belts, and YORDENIS UGAS is a blip in the radar, okay? He's a person that's standing in the way of Errol Spence and what Errol Spence has been long looking to accomplish in his career, and that's to become undisputed, okay? So Errol Spence, he reminds everybody on his social media that ain't nothing going to stand in my way. I am unbreakable. Everything happens for a reason. Things happen just to create a storyline, and this is just part of my story and my journey, and the journey will continue April 16th, and I will not be broken. I will not be denied en route to becoming undisputed. So essentially, Errol Spence has put his biggest rival today is undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the reigning WBO World Boxing Organization welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and Terrence Boyd Crawford, who is 38 wins, no loss, and no draw, 29 big wins by way of knockout, 34 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch armage. Okay, so Terrence Crawford makes up for 50% of the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, which is himself versus Errol Spence Jr., okay? And so Errol Spence Jr., he let it be known that there is nothing that's going to stand in the way of me and my destiny. I will not be broken, okay? Errol Spence, he showed a little clips of him sparring, in shape, working out, training, preparing for this April 16th showdown with YORDENIS UGAS. Now, we're just heading into March, so Errol Spence still has a little over about 6 weeks, okay? A little over 6 weeks before his showdown with YORDENIS UGAS. But it just, many people are questioning, out of sight, out of mind. It's just natural human behavior, okay? When people don't see you, they don't see you performing your respective profession, regardless if it's a professional athlete or whatever it may so choose to be, people question and they wonder, are you going to ever be the same? Do you still have the same capabilities? Okay, it's a valid point that people have, is just because it's just the unknown. People fear the unknown, okay, and they fear what they don't understand. And if they don't see you and they don't see you perform, people will doubt you. Okay, out of sight, out of mind. Okay. It goes for everything in all sports across the board. It goes for the same in basketball, football, baseball, hockey. It doesn't matter. Boxing, UFC, it doesn't matter. Out of sight, out of mind. Errol Spence has been one fight since suffering that car accident in 2019. We're in 2022, so there's going to be people that are going to question his abilities. They're going to question his journey, okay? And one person that can debunk all of those questions, okay, and answer those questions is Errol Spence himself, okay? We know his sparring partners. They said that Errol Spence has gotten stronger. He's gotten quicker. His ring IQ has gotten higher, okay? And I think that that's a testament to the fact that Errol Spence, he stated that after suffering a horrific car accident, he has a newfound love and respect for the sport of boxing and what it provides him to be able to provide for his family, okay? So I think that Errol Spence is committed like no other, okay? Like he has never been in his career. And I think that Errol Spence at this point in time is out to prove a point. I believe that he has a huge chip on his shoulder. I think that, he's the forgotten man, okay? There's many people, his peers, boxing pundits, not that they ever, made a huge dent in his psyche as to what he's going to do and what he's capable of doing. But I do think that it's motivating Errol Spence, okay? I believe that when you hear guys like Timothy Bradley, once upon a time, Errol Spence was the perceived boogeyman in the division, in the sport of boxing, in the welterweight division, okay? And you hear guys saying, is Errol Spence eye going to be the same? Can he compete with a guy like Terrence Crawford, which is the biggest fight in the sport of boxing? You know, you hear Sean Porter saying, you know, I believe this is the perfect time and the perfect fight for Errol Spence against Yordenis Ugas, you know, and, you know, you have, it's the same goes for Keith Thurman, right? Keith Thurman was out the ring for 2 years and people question Keith Thurman's ability. Is he going to be the same? Okay. It's just that Errol Spence is a unified champion, and we saw this movie before. When he was out the ring for 14 months, he came back against Danny Garcia and he dominated Danny Garcia. So the chip on his shoulder got even bigger, okay? Because when we saw Keith Thurman come back in the ring after his layoffs, he didn't look the same, okay? He looked vulnerable. He looked like, you know, he lost the step against Josito Lopez, then Manny Pacquiao. Then another 2-year layoff, you know, and he came back against Mario Barrios, who was a junior welterweight, and came making his debut in welterweight. And Keith Thurman showed vulnerabilities and showed that he was hurt multiple times in that fight, okay? Errol Spence didn't show any of those things, any vulnerabilities against Danny Garcia, so you can understand why the chip is getting even bigger. And he's saying, this is my second comeback and my journey is will be fulfilled. So obviously everybody wants to see, you know, if Errol Spence gets past Yordenis Ugas, is he going to fight Terrence Crawford? Now, this is one thing I want to say. I see a lot of people doubting Errol Spence, and a lot of people now suddenly having newfound, you know, confidence in Yordenis Ugas. Because if this was Errol Spence coming off the Sean Porter fight, immediately fighting Yordenis Ugas would be the huge underdog in this fight, okay? But after, and respectfully so, after the injuries and after the things that Errol Spence has been through in the layoffs, it's understandable. But when this fight was first made, everybody started to say that Errol Spence was avoiding the big fights, and why is he fighting Yordenis Ugas, as if it was a cherry pick. So Errol Spence wins this fight, regardless of how he wins. He should get the same respect and same the narrative should be that Errol Spence beat a world champion and a very good fighter. Keep in mind, Yordenis Ugas even had to take the social media and defend his place and his stance and state that I'm a world champion. I'm not just a roadblock. Errol Spence is fighting a world champion. So that just lets you know how people perceived this fight when it was first made. So Errol Spence puts the world, the boxing world, and everybody else on notice, lets them know I am not going to be broken. I will not be broken, and my journey will continue, and I will accomplish what I set out to accomplish. So let's see how this plays out April 16th, Arlington, Texas, AT&T Dallas Cowboys Stadium. That's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button, drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notification. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.